Good morning, children. Welcome to the English class at another time. And today we are going to start the third chapter, that is the third lesson, and that is Uncovering the Ghost of Nancy Drew. This is very interesting chapter. This is very, I should say, will take you to different uh, different fields and different imagination. This is something which is real also, and which is, you will feel at times it is unreal as well. So it is a combination of real and unreal. You will learn new terms in this chapter, because it is about somebody who is a writer, and how the journey of this writer takes place. This story is all about that. Yeah, and even I should tell you that Uncovering the Ghost of Nancy Drew is a series. It's a series. It's a detective series of novels. All the stories are written, and it has been compiled into many parts. So it is like 7 to 8 books which are being published for Uncovering the Ghost of Nancy Drew. This is the story of a detective girl, the girl who is a detective. And again, as it is written way back, which is not so very common factor to be a girl as detective in those times. That is why it is so unusual. Okay, and why is this story so interesting? That we shall learn now. Okay, so here is the story, Uncovering the Ghost of Nancy Drew by Pamela Chopin. Right? In this story, what we shall see, read about the creator of one of the most popular young detectives in English literature. Creator. Who is the creator? Creator means the person who creates things through his imagination, through the knowledge, whatever he has, through his experiences. He tried to create something. So that is why this is a story about a creator who has created these characters. And of course, the writer who writes these characters, who creates these characters, he is also, or she is also termed as a creator of these characters. Okay, which may be at times real, I mean taken from the real life story, or could be completely uh, imaginative, fictional, right? So the person who creates this character, like we have seen, like you are so very well versed with all the Marvel characters. So these all superhero characters have been created by the writer, right? And then henceforth they have become so popular by in the written series also, and through films also. So this is again creator. We read about the creator of one of the most popular young detectives in English literature. Okay, we are reading about not only about the character which she has created, but about herself also, the creator of the characters. Know what the various elements of the mystery stories are. No, learn how to use appropriate vocabulary to talk about an investigation. See, every job has a different terminology. Doctors, they speak in a particular they speak in particular terms. Teacher, they use particular vocabulary. Similarly, police, they use a particular vocabulary. It's the same manner. The detectives, the people who are investigating any crime or any secret they want to find out, any mystery if they want to solve, they use particular language, they use particular vocabulary. So that is also we are going to learn here. Study verbs, of course, right? Let's start. Do you know what a pseudonym is? I told you you will learn new terms. Now, what is a pseudonym? Actually, this name is a name of the writer, which writer decides or put on for himself or herself when the writer does not want to reveal his or her original identity or name. That is a pseudonym. Okay, so do you know what a pseudonym is? It is the name that someone, the answer is also here. It is the name that someone, usually a writer, because writers only do. At times, you might find that many actors when they come to the film industry, when they become a known face, they change their original name. Okay, maybe because of the reasons they find that this name would not relate to the people, or they wanted to hide their identity. Actors, of course, cannot hide their identity, but the writers can. So generally, the pseudonyms are used by the writers. Usually, a writer uses instead of their real name. It is also called a pen name. Okay. And a very interesting fact I would like you to tell right now, with this pen name, there used to be, in olden times, in earlier times, there used to be pen friends. Like right now, you make friends, people make friends on Facebook and Instagram, and other social networking sites. And even there are many people in that group whom we even don't know. We even don't have been with them ever in our lives, but still they are in touch with us with some different name, maybe, or maybe with their original names. So in the earlier times, with this pen name, there used to be a term called pen friends. These used to be the people who never had met each other, but they are connected through the letters. Okay, so this is again another piece of information. So coming back to the lesson, it is also called a pen name. The famous English novelist Charles Dickens used the pseudonym Boss. Okay, read this passage about a young man's search for the real name. For the real author of the popular Nancy Drew series of detective novels. Right now, this story is not only about the creator of that character, Nancy Drew, but this story is also about the man who urges to find out the real writer behind these amazing characters and behind these amazing stories. Right, because this writer uses pseudonyms, so he did not know who is the actual writer of this series, and he wanted to know it so very desperately, because the character she has made, the character she has created, the storyline what she has written was amazing. Okay, so that is why this story is about how Nancy Drew, the character, was created. Okay, and who was the creator of this character. And third, it is a story about how that detective, how that man becomes the detective, though he is not a detective by profession, but he becomes a detective and finds out what is actually, who is actually, or what, how it became Nancy Drew, the way Nancy Drew is as a series, as a character today. Let's begin. What would you do if you discovered a secret message scribbled inside a library book? When we go to school, every now and then we visit. Children have their fixed timetable, their fixed class or fixed schedule to go to library. If suppose one fine day you go to the library, and what do you find? That inside a book somewhere there is a secret. So what would you do if you find a secret message scribbled inside library book? Wouldn't it be amazing to you? Wouldn't you feel amazing about it? Wouldn't you feel shocked for some time? Or rather, somebody may feel curious to know more about it, right? So, and what if it was a clue to a mystery you were trying to solve? And what happens if it is a clue to the mystery you wanted to solve, because this man is so desperate to solve the mystery, and then what had happened? He had finally got a clue to uncover, or to discover, or to find out something about that mysterious that writer whom he wanted to talk to, or whom he wanted to know about. Okay, so in 1963, in 1963, a young library worker named Geoffrey Lupin discovered something mysterious about a favorite book detective, Nancy Drew. Now see, how many characters we have come across by far? The first is Geoffrey. Clear? And the second is about the character. And the character of that novel is Nancy Drew. Nancy Drew is not the writer. Children, please understand, Nancy Drew is the detective. It's a detective character, okay, of the series Uncovering the Ghost of Nancy Drew. Clear? I mean, this is the series. Nancy Drew is the character of that series. Okay, so there are two characters we have come across by far. Is Geoffrey, first of all, he is the narrator also. He is the detective who is trying to find out who is behind or who has created Nancy Drew. Okay, so I repeat, in 1963, a young library worker named Geoffrey Lupin discovered something mysterious about a favorite book detective, Nancy Drew. Library records stated that no one knew who had written the story about her, and he had gone through the library records and he could not get who had actually written Nancy Drew, that series, who had written that character, because every time whosoever is the writer, maybe he is using his real name or a pseudonym or a pen name, they are putting that name there, no? So, but here no clue who has written Nancy Drew. The author's name on the book read Caroline Keene, but some people said that there was no such person. Okay, the name which was written over there is Caroline Keene, but people said that there is no such person. Maybe it's a pseudonym, or maybe, let's see, find out what is that maybe. Okay, the only printed fact Geoffrey could find said Caroline Keene, real name unknown. So that was for sure for him that Caroline Keene is not a real name, and he was so eager. He had that urge to find out who is the real writer behind this such a beautiful series, and who is the creator of such a beautiful character that is Nancy Drew. Then Geoffrey found a message inside a clue, a message inside a Baltimore library book. Right next to the name Caroline Keene, someone had penciled in another name, Mildred Worth. Next to that, the person had written another clue, See American Women, 1939 to 1940. This was the basic clue given by this last paragraph. This was the basic clue actually given, or Geoffrey had found out. And where did he find this clue? In a Baltimore library. Okay, and then what was the clue? That right next to the name Caroline Keene, someone had penciled in another name that is Mildred Worth. And then another clue was given that if you want to know more about Caroline Keene or Mildred Worth, you should see See American Women, so that you can get the clue who was Mildred Worth and what is the connection between Mildred Worth and Caroline Keene, right? Okay. Who was Mildred Worth? Who was Mildred Worth? That was the question. If Caroline Keene is the writer of Nancy Drew series, then who is this Mildred Worth? I mean, come on. How can this detective has started thinking that how can one book, how can it have two writers? one book or one series. How can it be possible? Either it could be Carolyn Keene, or it has to be Mildred Ward. But now he's confused because two names were given on the book. Okay, so he became more curious to know about what is the truth. So let's see what happens further. Who was Mildred Ward? It seemed as if Jeffrey's old chum Nancy Drew was whispering in his ear. He had to solve this mystery, and he was so very fascinated with this Nancy Drew series and Nancy Drew character as a detective that he himself wanted to become a detective now. And secondly, it was so very that thought of finding the mystery or solving the mystery was so strong inside him that he anyhow he had to solve the mystery. So Jeffrey was about it. He wanted to dive deep inside and find out the mystery, that what is actually true, what is the truth actually. Who is Carolyn Keene and who is Mildred Ward? Who has written Nancy Drew series for such a long time? Okay, and a quick check for the meaning chum. It's a close friend. Okay, because he considered Nancy Drew as a character. He it was so close to his heart that he actually started thinking Nancy Drew is a real character, is a real person, and he actually taking Nancy Drew as his started taking Nancy Drew as his friend. Okay, so this is the way. Like the children of your age think that all the superheroes and the characters are all real, and at times you feel that they are our friends and something like that. So similarly, this man also, this boy also, Jeffrey, had started taking Nancy Drew, the character, a detective, as his friend. So he wanted to know desperately about who was Nancy Drew, and he was all set to solve this mystery. Quickly, he located the book American Women. And now, naturally, the first thing he had to do was to find out that book where he can get another clues. Okay, so he finally located that book, American Women. And it is, the pronunciation of this word is women. Okay, if it is singular, we pronounce it woman. But if it is plural, we pronounce it women. So, quickly he located the book, American Women. What he found there must have made him catch his breath. And what he found there, in that book, American Women, was enough to catch. Okay, children, are we here? Sorry for this little interruption. There was a net issue. Okay, shall we continue now? Okay. Quickly, he located the book American Women. What he found there must have made him catch his breath. Someone named Mildred Ward Benson, her married name, had written more than 130 children's books. Can you just imagine? I mean, this Mildred Ward was such an amazing writer that she has written 130 children's books. Okay, and he was so very carried away by this fact that this woman whose name is Mildred Ward Benson, and it took a minute for him to understand that Mildred Ward is the original writer of the Nancy Drew series by the name of Carolyn Keene. Okay. And she had used pseudonyms. Was Carolyn Keene one of the made-up author names she had used? If so, why would she hide her true identity? I mean, what's wrong? I mean, she has created such an amazing series. She has written so many books that why she had to hide her identity? Because she has written such magnificent books and such amazing books for children, then why she had to hide the identity? This was the main question what was hammering into Jeffrey's mind. Okay, what would Nancy look for next? Footprints. An author's writing style was like her footprints. Okay, and now footprints or fingerprints. What are the fingerprints of footprints? How many of you know that? How many of you know that? Okay, so why this fingerprint is so very important? Because everybody has their own unique fingerprints. No, I mean, no second person has the same fingerprint, or the pattern of fingerprint is same. And nowadays, as we know that mobile phones also uses fingerprint. It has got fingerprint scanner or something like that, so that it is strictly used by the individual only. Okay, and that is why fingerprints are so very important, because it cannot match any second person. Clear? And here Jeffrey says why he uses this term fingerprint for writing, because every writer has his or her own unique way of writing. Okay, the way he narrates a story, the way he creates a situation, the way he he uses the words, or maybe some people have a particular liking towards particular genre. For example, some write into detectives, some write horror stories, some write the stories based on nature, some write stories based on human emotions, some write stories which are all fictional, some uses both fiction and the real situation. So there are many genre where the writers write their stories. So that is why the style of writing is unique for each writer. Okay, so that is why he says that writing style, mark my words children, and remember this, why Jeffrey uses this word fingerprints for the authors, for the writers, because he says that the writing skill of an author is like a fingerprint. You can understand through the writing skill that, okay, fine, this writer could be this. And the way Nancy Drew has been written for so many years, he could understand very nicely that the writer, that is Mildred Wirth, who is the writer of 130 children's book, has got the same writing style which he has found in Nancy Drew series. That is why he says that the writing skill is like a fingerprint for any author. Okay, let's continue. What would Nancy look for next? Fingerprints. And how he connects this? Because Nancy was a detective. Every detective, every investigation, you also might have seen on television, in movies, that every investigation begins with the fingerprints. Fingerprints are something which cannot match anybody else's fingerprint, and secondly, this is the greatest evidence before any for any culprit. Okay, so fingerprints. So he very fondly says that what would Nancy look for the next? If suppose Nancy would have been the detective for this writer, what he would look for? What she would look for? She would look for fingerprints. Okay, and fingerprints, and that is why he connects that, okay, the writing skill and authors. Okay, and author's writing skill was like fingerprints. And now he understands that, okay, for an author, if I have to look for it, it is his or her writing style, right? The way he writes his stories would be her fingerprints. She could not hide her style, and any writer cannot hide her style, because ultimately they have to write accordingly. Okay, so that is why Jeffrey says that this writer, she, whosoever it may be, Mildred Wirth or Caroline Keene, can never hide their writing style, and no one else can duplicate it exactly as fingerprints. Okay, no one can be so prompt to copy that writing style. Okay, no one can be so prompt to copy the fingerprint. Similarly, no one can be so prompt to copy writing style. So that is why Jeffrey says that no one else could duplicate it exactly. If Jeffrey found Mildred's other books, he would compare them with the Nancy Drew books. Now he's on the right track. Okay, he has understood that like Nancy would look for the fingerprints for the investigation of a crime, similarly Jeffrey had to look for the similar books or the books written by Mildred Ward, so that he can very nicely claim that the writer of Nancy Drew series is Mildred Ward only and nobody else. Combing through antique stores. What is the meaning of combing? It is one way to dress your hair. It is also combing. And another meaning of combing is searching through something carefully. This is carefully. Okay, searching through something very carefully. It's combing. So now you have got another term to use in your life, combing. Suppose you are busy finding something in the shelf and your mother asks, what are you doing right now? So you may answer, Mom, I'm combing for my book. You know, so that means I'm looking for something very intently, very carefully for something. That is combing. So combing through antique stores. What are antique stores? Stores selling rare and old stuff. Antique means very rare and old stuff, which we often see in the museums. Antique stores and musty bookshelf. Jeffrey said he had truly found a gold mine. Okay, and now he was after all those books written by Mildred Ward. Okay, and finally he had got the gold mine. And why he is saying gold mine? It is a metaphor. If you remember, I told you kind of a figures of speech earlier also, and here it is metaphor. Here the bookstore or the collection of books have been taken as a gold mine, where it's a gold mine is a treasure. Similarly for Jeffrey, these books or these stores have become the gold mine where he can find the treasure, which are the books written by Mildred Ward. Every book he read by Mildred was filled with word pictures similar to those he had read in Nancy Drew books. Now he had got that one similarity. What was that one similarity? Word pictures. Okay. Secret passageways, country roads, and roadsters wound their way through the books he found, just as they did in a popular series. Now these secret pathways and country roads, and these are the some things which are very common for any writer to write. Okay, so the same things he found in Nancy Drew series also, and the same thing he found here in these different books written by Mildred Ward as well. So now he was very sure that the writer of Nancy Drew books is not Caroline Keene, it is Mildred Ward. It was as if Nancy was having adventures under the name of other characters, and Mildred had written those adventures using different authors' names. But why? The main question still was lingering into his mind that why a person had to hide her identity when she has written such nice books. Then why that person was hiding her name? That was the main question. Let's see. Okay. Only Mildred could reveal this secret. Only Mildred could reveal this secret. Nobody else, because of course she has written all the books. She has decided to hide her name. Then only she can tell why had she done so. Jeffrey arranged an interview. Now finally Jeffrey could arrange an interview. Okay, the moment they met, he felt as if he were talking to Nancy Drew herself. Okay, and luckily this fellow Jeffrey could manage to arrange an interview with Mildred. Okay, not with Caroline Keene. with Mildred Wirth, who was the original writer, author, and the creator of these fantastic books and the fantastic characters. Okay, so the moment they met and they sat together, okay, in front of each other, what did he feel? He felt as if he were talking to Nancy Drew herself. The way Mildred was talking, it reminded Jeffrey that he was talking not to the Mildred Wirth, but to Nancy Drew. And why did he feel so? Because Nancy Drew character, the character of Nancy Drew, and the way Mildred Wirth was in real life are exactly same. Okay. As a long-time reporter for the Toledo Blade, Mildred had detecting in her blood. Okay, as she had been a reporter also, so that's why she was very much into this detecting things. You know, reporters they look for the stories, and then they go deeper into the stories to find out what is reality, what is myth, what is wrong, what is right. So similarly, Nancy Drew, rather Mildred, had that in her blood. You know, to be detective, to be detecting things, to be finding out the mysteries and the unsolved things and finding out the secrets. Okay, children, that's all for today. Tomorrow we shall continue in the next part. Until then, keep reading the lesson. I hope you have found all the things or all the ebooks online as well. Bye bye and have a nice day ahead.